John Russell and Rick Hickman with you, and joining us is a gentleman who has been a featured performer on the Happy Together tour, along with the Buckinghams, Turtles, Grassroots, and Gary Puckett. We welcome to the Saturday Morning Jukebox and our Legend Spotlight, none other than the lead singer and drummer for the Monkees, Mickey Dolenz.
Hey, how you doing? Great introduction. Thanks. Made me sound actually quite successful.
Only the best get to come on here. Obviously, the TV show, you had some acting chops before getting into the TV show, but it had to be a life-changing experience for you virtually overnight.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I had been in the business already for a number of years. I had my first series when I was 10 years old, called Circus Boy on NBC, and it ran for a few years. And I'd had, a degree of success and fans in a fan club and was in parades and signing autographs. And so I'd had a taste of it, but, nothing could prepare anybody for what happened after the Monkees show took off. Obviously, that was a huge, huge event in my life. And funnily enough, the original project didn't really even last that long. The show was only on the air for 2 years, and then we did a little bit of recording and touring. But the whole project lasted a few years.
Only a few years, but yet, we're talking about it nearly 50 years later. It's certainly a phenomenon. You certainly couldn't have foresaw that. The question I always wanted to ask you, Mickey, is, back when you're auditioning for this, I mean, I think they were leaning more towards actors than singers necessarily, but you guys were able to hold your own singing-wise. I mean, you did all the vocals. You were the lead singer of the group, and I guess
actually, that's not quite accurate. And I remember because it was a very distinctive difference between even the very early auditions and a typical audition for a television series. At the time would have been just reading a few lines out of a script and across a desk from someone. And that would kind of basically be it. You might do that a couple of times and then you either get offered the part or not. But in this case, there certainly was script reading and stuff like that. But there was also singing, there was playing, there was improvisation, there was scene study. The screen tests, and they were filming all this stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. The screen tests went on for weeks, and I remember thinking this is very unusual, and also how exciting this is. It was clear that they did not just want actors, because I and David and I were the only two that had any acting experience. Peter and Mike were exclusively singer, songwriter, musicians. I also had been in a rock and roll band. My audition piece for the Monkees was Johnny Be Good, the Chuck Berry tune on the guitar. Mm-hmm. But they obviously must have had in mind that we were going to not only act but and do the comedy, but also sing and play, because they wouldn't have bothered otherwise. They would have just hired 4 actors, but they didn't. And since the Monkees, I've done a lot of musical theater, and it was very similar to how you audition for musical theater, where you have to do it all. You have to act and sing and dance and go through the whole process.
The local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song. They serenade the weekend squad who just came out to mow his lawn. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday, charcoal burning everywhere, rows of houses that are all the same, and no one seems to care. So Mrs. Gray, she's proud today because her roses are in bloom. And Mr. Green, he's so serene, he's got a TV in every room.
television show that's come along. That's the first show since the Monkees that really fits the paradigm, I think, and that's Glee. Which is a television show about a glee club, an imaginary glee club, but they actually sing and dance and act and play the characters in the glee club. And I understand they've even been on the road doing concerts. And that's very similar to what the Monkees did 45 years ago.
And you mentioned those audition tapes. They were always filmed and were quite lengthy, to the point to where they were extensively used in the Monkees TV show quite often, weren't they?
Yeah, they started showing the interviews and the auditions that they did in the pilot, and then later on they started doing more spontaneous auditions. And and they did start using that. They found that the fans, the viewers, like to see that kind of stuff, the more improvisational stuff.
And obviously you guys were hilarious on camera, came across as quite the cut-ups. Is it true that when you guys were recording in the studio, they often tried to keep you guys separated?
No, I never heard that. Where'd that one come from?
Well, they said that you guys were such practical jokers that sometimes it was just easier, instead of letting all four of you loose in a studio, just to do separate parts. Not necessarily true.
No.
Okay, very good. Boy, it's a great story. You might want to start telling that.
Not true at all.
Okay. Makes a good story, though.
I mean, we did, yeah, if it were true, it would be. No, we definitely, when we did get together, we were definitely very spontaneous, shall we say, and still are, even when we've gotten together over the years. But that was something that they actually groomed us for. That is something they encouraged. We had improvisation classes, training when the show, when they bought the pilot, when the pilot was sold, and we knew we were going to do a series, the producers got us into improv training and encouraged us to be improvisational and spontaneous. That a lot of that stuff you see on the television show is us improving.
She told me that she loved me, and like a fool I believed her from the start. She said she'd never hurt me, but then she turned around and broke my heart. Why am I standing here, missing her and wishing she were here? Hey! She only did me wrong. Hey! I'm better off alone. All I had, and then she fed me dirt. She laughed when I was crying. It was such a joke to see the way it hurt. Why am I standing here, missing her and wishing she were here? Hey, she only did me wrong. Hey, I'm better off alone. And now I know just why she keeps me hanging round. She needs someone to walk on, so her
Talking with the great Mickey Dolenz. And Mickey, the songwriters, I mean, just some of the legends of the business. You had King and Goff and Neil Diamond. You had Boyce and Hart. Harry Nelson wrote some stuff for you. Going in, did you think, wow, what an arsenal of music we have? I guess talk to us about the musical aspect, because it is twofold. It was kind of a goofy little show with four guys living in this beach house someplace and trying to be this band. But what was it like music-wise for you?
Well, I came mostly, as you know, from television. I had a couple of cover bands, Mickey and the One-Nighters being one of them. Sure. Playing bowling alley cocktail lounges. Mm-hmm. You haven't lived until you've been to a bowling alley cocktail lounge for $75 a night. As a singer, a rock and roll singer, but I was not familiar with the music industry as much as I was the television industry. Like I told you, my audition piece was Johnny B. Goode on the guitar. I'd had one session before the Monkees television show as a singer, Glenn Campbell actually playing guitar on it for me. So I knew a little bit about recording and a little bit about, playing and singing, but really nothing about the music business. And I remember one day after the show went on the air and stuff, publisher brought me down to the little apartment building where all the writers were kind of hanging out. And he knocked on the door and he said, "Hi, Mickey, this is Carole King. Carole, this is Mickey. Carole will be she'll be writing some songs for you." And at the time, of course, 1966 or something, I had no idea who these writers were. Nobody did in those days. The writers did not get nearly the same kind of recognition back then as, of course, they do today. And in the next little room was David Gates. "Hi, David. Wow. This is Mickey. This is David Gates. He'll be writing some songs for you." And then, of course, Neil and Boyce and Hart. Actually, I got to know very, very well. We got to know very well because they not only wrote some of the biggest hits that we had, including the theme song and Clarksville, of course, and Stepping Stone, but they also produced the early records. And so producers, I'm sure you know, are somewhat responsible for the sound of a band also. And so, we had this incredible arsenal of songwriters and these great producers, Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. When you put together that kind of pedigree of people, it almost isn't surprising, how great some of those songs came out.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We go wherever we want to, do what we like to do. We don't have time to get restless, there's always something new. Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly, come and watch us sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say. Anytime or anywhere, just look over your shoulder, guess who'll be standing there? Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. And people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly, come and watch, sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say.
Of course, one of the saddest days for us in recent memory was February 29th, the day we learned of the death of Davy Jones. How did you learn of Davy's passing, and when you think of him, what comes to mind?
Well, when I think of him, I start just smiling and laughing. He was so funny. He was such a great fun guy to be around. And I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. And the second thing, of course, is, entertaining. He and I really, really had a very, very good chemistry, a tight chemistry. And I think it, I can't speak for the producers, but I suspect that they sensed that too. We really got on right from the get-go. Even from the auditions. I remember him from the auditions, and I think some of that might have been the fact that we both had similar backgrounds. He'd been a child star doing Broadway, and I had had a TV show, so we had something in common there, and we were singers, and so we just got hit it off. And I remember the producers teaming us up, and even during the audition process. And then after that, of course, we became very good friends. We got married about the same time, had kids about the same time, and then worked, after the Monkees. I worked with David much more than I worked with Peter or Mike. We would often go out just together, the two of us. As far as, his passing, my wife called me in the morning, woke me up in a hotel room in New York or something, and told me. And she'd heard it. I'm still not... It still probably hasn't totally sunk in. It takes a while for something like that, because after 45 years, this guy became like my brother. So it's like losing a sibling.
Walk out, girl, don't you walk out. We got things to say. Talk out, let's have it talked out and things will be okay. Girl, I don't want to fight. I'm a little bit wrong. Say, girl, you know that it's true. It's a little bit me, and it's a little bit of you, too. Don't know just what I said wrong, but girl, I apologize. Don't go, here's where you belong, so wipe the tears from your eyes. Girl, I don't want to fight. I'm a little bit wrong. You're a little bit right. That's it, girl. You know that it's true. It's a little bit me, and it's a little bit of you, too.
Of course, we all became so familiar both with your music, all of you as personalities from the show and beyond. We certainly felt that way worldwide. And you mentioned Michael Nesmith, another one of you great four talents. He hasn't always been the most interested in rejoining the group for touring. However, in some recent released great news, Peter, Mike, and you will tour together near the end of this year.
Yep, we will. In November. We may be coming to your town.
Just a loudmouth Yankee, I went down to Mexico. I didn't have much time to spend, about a week or so. There I lightly took advantage of a girl who loved me so. But I found myself a-thinking when the time had come to go. What am I doing hanging round? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding on that train to San Antone. doing hanging round? She took me to the garden just for a little walk. I didn't know much Spanish and there was no time for talk. Then she told me that she loved me not with words but with a kiss. And like a fool I kept on thinking of a train I could not miss. What am I doing hanging round? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding on that train to San Antone. What am I doing hanging round? Well, it's been a year or so, and I want to go back again. And if I get the money, well, I'll ride the same old train. But I guess your chances come but once, and boy, I sure missed mine. And still I can't stop thinking when I hear some whistle crying. What am I doing hanging round? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding on that train to San Antone. What am I doing hanging round? What am I doing hanging round? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding on that train to San Antone. What am I doing hanging round? What am I doing hanging round? I should be on that train and gone. I should be riding.
One thing that I was always fascinated by, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, obviously the Monkees were based on the Beatles, and in some ways, at least in this country, you held your own with the Beatlemania, with Monkee Mania, and you got a real good dose of that, and I know you had an opportunity to meet Ringo and John and the Beatles themselves. What was their take on what you guys were doing?
Well, they were fans. The Monkees was not a takeoff of the Beatles. The Monkees was a television show about a band that wanted to be the Beatles.
Okay.
And as such, it sort of represented all those kids out there. I know it's a fine distinction, but it's important. If you understand that sort of dynamic, everything makes more sense. Was this show about this band that wanted to be the Beatles? And so, and like I said, as such, it spoke to all those kids around the States or the world that were in their basements and garages trying to become famous and trying to become a famous band. Because on the television show, the Monkees were never famous. Mm-hmm. We were always struggling for the success. And I think that's one of the reasons that endeared it to people. Whereas on the Beatle movies, say Help and Hard Day's Night, they were successful. They were already the Beatles and very successful. But on the Monkee show, that wasn't the case. It was always the struggle for success that we were trying to, get the record deal, get the gig at the local, dance. We had a poster of the Beatles up on the set. That was sort of the heart of the show, and it was that struggle for success that I think a lot of the kids related to.
She turned away and said, once I loved, but love is dead. And I whispered, sometimes love is only sleeping. She said, I cannot cry, and I cannot give or feel or even try. And her voice was hard and cold, then her sweet young face looked old. And I whispered, sometimes love is only sleeping. Through the endless days and nights she could not help but wrap herself in sorrow. Through the endless Countless days and nights we waited for a shining new tomorrow. Love was sleeping, sleeping. She whispered, sometimes love is only sleeping. And she whispered, sometimes love is only sleeping. Only sleeping. Only sleeping. Only sleeping. Only sleeping. Only sleeping.
And then at some point with the band, though, especially I'm assuming that probably the leading of Mike and maybe Peter, as far as being the true musicians of the group, there was kind of a struggle to really get control of the music a little bit from the Monkees standpoint, as opposed to Don Kirshner, right?
Well, there was that big battle, which is too extensive to go into, right now, but it's pretty well-known public knowledge, Yeah, Mike especially spearheaded, the sort of Palace Revolt. And by that time, we were all playing and singing and touring and doing all the concerts and everything. And it was basically just we wanted to have some sort of input into what was being recorded, how it was being recorded, the songs, the production. Originally, we had none, absolutely no control or no input at all into anything to do with music. Not even the liner notes or the album covers. We had absolutely no control. They didn't even ask us. Peter Tork tells the story of, and he's an excellent musician. He played like 7 instruments. He tells the story of going into the studio, one of the early sessions with his bass guitar, and they said, "What are you doing here?"
Girl, don't you know every time I see you smiling, it's so bad, 'cause when I see you I start trying to stop, but there's no denying. Love with you, girl, is just like spoken to how nobody but you. Words
Not unlike the Beatles, though, as the Monkees came to an end, I mean, you guys were so typecast of that. I mean, and you're still young men. I mean, the Monkees are over. You still have things that you want to do, and you have done, to your credit. But I know it's probably great now, 40 years later, to be able to be comfortable in your own skin and say, yep, I was a part of the Monkees. But there had to be a time right after that you thought, my God, I got to move on and do some other things here. Was that a struggle for you?
Well, not as much as it might have been if I had not already been through it once after Circus Boy.
Okay.
when it's like people said, hey, weren't you the kid on that TV show? And aren't you Corky? And, where's your elephant? So I in that sense, I guess I was fortunate that I had been to it, and I guess just intuitively I knew this was going to happen, but also I had become enamored with wanting to be a producer, director, writer, and I had already started working on that even during the Monkees. I wrote and directed an episode of the Monkees, and so immediately the show went off the air, and that was basically the end of the project for all intents and purposes, except, like I said, for a little recording and some touring. But I immediately started a production company, and I started doing commercials and documentaries and pitching shows. And then just a short time after that, a year or two, I ended up in England, and I'm doing a play, actually, but I started directing for the BBC. And I stayed there almost 15 years and did nothing but produce and direct and write television shows and films and theater things and all kinds of stuff. So I never had certainly not an extensive period of, what the heck am I going to do here? I just kept on rolling, kept on moving.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales and for someone else, but not for me. Our love was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Love was more or less a given thing. Seems the more I gave, the less I got. What's the use in trying? All you get is pain. When I needed sunshine, I got rain. Oh, then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Love was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Oh, then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Yes, I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. I'm not a trace of doubt in my mind. Said I'm a believer. Yeah.
You've been a part of the music of your generation. I mean, it's proven out now. I mean, you're still going strong with this group of guys, and I can only imagine the fun that you guys are having together. Obviously, still doing it. Do you guys ever kick back and say, "My God, it's almost going on 50 years, and people are singing our songs"? I mean, it's still going on. You couldn't have imagined that as a 26, 27-year-old guy right in the middle of it, could you?
Well, no, of course not. Of course not. But then you never do, no matter what project you're working on. When you start it, you do your best and you try to surround yourself with talented, successful people, but there's no formula. You can't ever predict any kind of success like that. If you could, there'd never be a flop. There'd never be a stiff in a record. I mean, nothing would ever bomb. So you just, like I say, you do your best, and then you hope for the best. After the Monkees, I mean, like I said, I went to England 15 years, never sang a song, never really, people didn't mention the Monkees for years. I'd hear a song on an oldies channel or something. It wasn't until '86 in that big reunion where I realized what an impact the show had. And by the way, forgot to answer your question about the Beatles. Mm-hmm. They were and are fans. I mean, they got it. Mm-hmm. They got what the show was about. It was John Lennon that first made the reference of the Monkees to the Marx Brothers. And that's a much more accurate comparison. The Monkees were much more like, say, a musical Marx Brothers than they were the Beatles.
Oh, that's funny. And you've been a part of the Happy Together tour, sharing stage with other greats like the Buckinghams, Turtles, Gary Puckett, the Grassroots. How much are you enjoying sharing the stage with those crazies?
It's great. I've done the tour now twice. It's my second time. Everybody's so much fun, and everybody's so easy to travel with and be with. And you know, the traveling is the tough part here. I just spent the last 36 hours getting from one gig to the next, and the gig's over in the flash of an eye, really. The traveling is the tough part. I tell people they pay me to travel. I sing for free.
Well, Mickey, I'll tell you what. Thanks for taking some time to chat with us. You've certainly been our heroes. I mean, we grew up in the '60s with the music, and we've loved chatting with you. Thanks for taking some time with us.
Well, thank you, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Have a good one.
So good, and I wouldn't live without her, even if I could. They call her Valerie. I love her Valerie. Oh yeah, come on. Hang around my door, but she sure looks different than the way she looked before. I call her